as vital in the effort to carry out reforms that lead to sustainable peace.
Largely seen as a placeholder and a consensus figure, Haile Mariam Desalegn has led Ethiopia since 2012, following the death of former Prime Minister and the architect of Ethiopia's recent economic boom, Meles Zenawi. He rose from relative obscurity as an academic to president of the southern region before being appointed foreign minister and deputy prime minister. His departure follows the current wave of unrest and a national state of emergency that ended last year. Ethiopia's largest regions, Oromia and Amhara, have witnessed massive demonstrations in recent months, with protesters mainly made up of youths calling for political and economic reform and an end to state corruption. In recent weeks, the government has released thousands of opposition supporters from jail, but the protests have continued. Years of unaccountability and ethnicization of the country's politics have pushed Ethiopia to tipping point. Injustice, repression, and lack of meaningful democracy, some say, have instilled a sense of despondency, particularly among Ethiopia's youth, driving many to view protests as the only viable means of bringing about meaningful change. The ongoing disturbances have also led to deep divisions within the governing coalition, with some of Ethiopia's powerful elites coming to see the Prime Minister as weak and lacking in focus. Haile Mariam's surprise resignation may not satisfy all of Ethiopia's protesters, but for some, it's a start. Mohammed Adu, Al Jazeera.
Daniel Bekele is an Ethiopia analyst and a former director for Africa advocacy at Human Rights Watch. He joins me live from New York. Many thanks. I should say as well that you were arrested and jailed for 2 years for promoting human rights in Ethiopia in 2005. What is it you think that brought Haile Mariam to this point? Was it simply pressure from the streets?
Thanks for having me. The Prime Minister's resignation is such a significant and unprecedented development in Ethiopian political history, but not totally surprising one, given the fact that the political crisis in the country, as Mohammed Ademo was just reporting, has really reached its tipping point, basically caused by undemocratic governance for several years and political repression, where, journalists, political opponents, and civil society activists have been labeled as terrorists and languished in prison, and street demonstrators have died on the streets, and the serious political crisis has really reached to a point where we are now at. So his resignation is a result of the push from people, the demands from people, the demands for better governance, the demand for democracy, the demand for rule of law and human rights respect.
Do you see it, therefore, as a genuine gesture of goodwill? He says he wants to be part of the solution, a gesture towards meaningful reform?
It was encouraging to hear the Prime Minister making that remark, but whether or not Ethiopia is going on a path of genuine political solution and new political chapter is yet to be seen by what the ruling party is able and willing to commit to. The Prime Minister's departure is a significant and major step, but I think now the question is whether the ruling party is able to lead an all-inclusive new political transition for Ethiopia, to start a program of national reconciliation and to start a program of reconstruction and reconciliation in an all-inclusive way.
National unity and reconciliation are key themes, aren't they, in a country so bitterly ethnically divided now? Broadly speaking, across those ethnicities, do you think this is being seen as a positive step?
Yes, it is arguably seen as a positive step, but like I said, the ball is squarely in the court of the ruling party now, so to speak, because there is now a huge expectation that the ruling party should rise up to the occasion, should rise up to the demands of the time to provide leadership to facilitate a credible, meaningful, genuine reform agenda, because what the country needs is not a change of the leaders at the Prime Minister's level, but a real change in the way the country is governed. So the question is whether the ruling party, together with other political actors, including the opposition groups, would collectively rise up to the occasion to provide leadership for a path out of the crisis the country is in. The worst case scenario is if the current political crisis and the ethnically charged tension is allowed to unravel along ethnic lines. But there is hope to believe that Ethiopia has a chance to use this as an opportunity to start a new political transition and a new political chapter.
Okay, Daniel Bikele, we're going to have to leave it there. Ethiopia analyst speaking to us from New York. Many thanks for your time. And still to come here on the Al Jazeera News Hour, a British